Oh, damn. That was very loud noise. Okay. So some technical difficulties. Okay, I might as well do this then. All right.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we're live. We're live now, people.
Yeah.
Just before we get started, I have to mention it that sorry for the usual. Like, the sound might be worse, or the quality of my picture might be worse. It's because I'm having to use my phone because my mic and my headphones have decided to play up for some reason. So essentially, when I joined on my computer, I couldn't hear 10, and yeah, it was. I have no idea. I'm still trying to fix it. So I've had to start the show on my phone, but hopefully the audio isn't too bad. But yeah, without further ado, of course, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Charlie's Take, and of course 10's channel if you're watching on his channel. Welcome back to La PIÑA Rosa, of course, where we talk about Deportivo and Palermo. Of course, both of our clubs having two interesting games at the weekend. Both our clubs with a lot of hope for this season, to say the least. But 10, obviously not a great start technical wise, but welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Obviously, we were supposed to do this game, or not the game, the show yesterday, but I just realized Deportivo played last night, so we decided to move it again to Tuesday. But well, hopefully we'll get back on Monday, basically. But yeah, I'm doing good. Enjoyed whatever was left of the transfer window. We'll talk about the Newcastle Spurs stuff on another day.
That'll be Thursday, guys. Year of the Bird. Thursday.
Yeah. But yeah, so far so good. And based on the results of both of our teams, we have yet to lose in Depor or Palermo. But some interesting results over the past few days now.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it was obviously we'll get into it, but of course the transfer market has closed for both clubs. The Italian and Spanish market closed at the same time, or maybe a couple of hours later than the UK transfer market as well. I'll let you go first on this one, 10. First of all, have Deportivo signed anyone else since the last show? And second, either way, how would you rate your transfer window? Kind of go through sort of the players you've brought in, sold. Kind of, do you think Deportivo have had a good window this window?
I'm trying to remember if we signed anyone, but the team, the players that we signed over the summer, So goalkeeper-wise, we signed Bachmann and Breto. But obviously, the main goalkeeper, Herman, is the main goalkeeper still. We brought in Naubi, Comas, Caglata from Cremonese.
Cremonese. Who've just signed.
Yeah, and Miguel Guerrero from Huesca as well. So those are like more of the defenders. Midfielders, we got a loan, I believe, of Garagera and Ruben Lopez. And then a little bit more of the forward attackers. We have Luis Cruz. We actually signed. Unfortunately, it's not the famous. Well, it is a famous name, but not really not the player itself. Stoichkov, not the Stoichkov of like back in the 90s, obviously, that used to play for Barcelona from Bulgaria. But yeah, we signed Stoichkov, and obviously last week we talked about Mulotieri. We'll get into him when we talked about the game, but those are the players we brought in. So we made a lot of changes and all that. Obviously, I think in terms of outgoings, if I remember, the one that happened this past week was Budini, who was with us for only like a season or two. He went to Granada on a tournament. So yeah, that's basically most of the things that happened in terms of the transfer window. And so far, out of 10, if I have to spell out of 10 for namesake, do I think it's a good transfer window and all that? I would say we improved the team a lot. I mean, it's a lot of players we brought in, a couple of Italian players.
If you share the screen, if you share the screen here, you guys have brought in loads of players. Like, look at this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, Bachmann from Watford, who we talked about. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 players.
Yeah, a lot of players basically. But it's a lot. And also big up to Anthony. Mercato is finally closed. Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been recalled back to England to replace Wharton. That's interesting. So Loftus-Cheek.
I saw that. Yeah, Loftus-Cheek. Wharton got injured, so they put him back in the squad.
Yeah, but overall, out of 10, I would probably say I guess 7, 8. Let's say 8 out of 10. Sort of transfer window. I mean, there's a lot of changes in the team. Obviously, we talked about we got obviously a new manager.
Well, like, you lost all of these guys here, so no wonder you're bringing a lot of players.
I mean, we basically did a Nottingham Forest from a few years ago. This time for the second tier, because most of these players that left were okay last season, but there were deficiencies of the team last season, which is still a problem for this season still, but I'd say at least better players than last season. Obviously, we brought in 2 Italian players. Both of them have experienced promotion last season. Cagliolata, the left back, Giacomo Cagliolata from Cremonese, and Mulotieri, who we talked about from Sassuolo, who started. I have to check if he started. I always forget. No, he didn't start, but he came on in the game against Leganés, which we'll talk about. So we actually signed 2 players from Serie A, but were playing in Serie B last season.
Played against Palermo, I'm pretty sure.
And got promoted with Sassuolo and Cremonese and all. But I'd probably say 8 out of 10, and only based on the first 3 games of the season so far. We'll talk about obviously Leganés game in a bit, but I'd say 8 out of 10 window for Deportivo. How would I say if it's out of 10? Maybe if we got in Mulotieri maybe at the start and all that, and see how he was.
Is there any positions that you think that you haven't addressed, or would you say, I mean, with the amount of players you brought in, would you say that most of your kind of holes have been filled in this transfer window?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, can't really say much because it's only 3 games in. There's still some problems, which I'd say when we talk about Leganés was still there, but I think it's better than what he calls last season, I would say, in terms of the transfers we did last summer and this summer. So I guess I'll say 8 out of 10.
Fair enough. Who's sort of the kind of players you're most excited for? Like who are your bigger rivals, you could say?
Obviously, Mulatieri, the center forward. I'd probably say Miguel Guerrero, who came from Huesca, and coincidentally, in 2-3 weeks, we're playing Huesca at home in La Coruña, so that'll be interesting. We also signed Lucas Naubi from Standard Liège as well, and Anal Comas from FC Basel. So yeah, I'd probably say that. But in terms of the main one, I guess I would probably say Mulatieri. I think he's probably the one I guess I'm excited for because he was alright at Sassuolo that we talked about the other day, last week. So I'd probably say him.
Nice, fair enough. Sounds like, yes. I mean, just judging by the amount of players you brought in, sounds like, you know, you guys have had a pretty good window. So we'll see. We'll see if if these players can gel. You know, that's always a big thing when a team a lot of players. Can they kind of figure it out? So look, fair play. It sounds like Deportivo have had a solid transfer window by the sounds of it. And speaking of solid transfer windows, we'll talk about Palermo. Since we did the last show, we have made another signing in that time. We have signed Samuel Giovane from Atalanta. He's never really played for Atalanta, but he was on loan at Carrarese last season, another Serie B team. And he's a younger player. You know, the majority of players we've brought in are sort of older. Him alongside Verodi, who we talked about last week. So our final 2 signings of Mercato were younger players, both 22. This guy's a midfielder. I think that at Carrarese, he was one of their better players. I believe I didn't see enough of him, to be honest. But from what I've seen, he's come from Atalanta. He is a pretty promising midfielder. I'm not sure he's going to be a starter for us in that sense, but I think he can add depth. And who knows, maybe he can give us an option in the starting 11. But I'll just share the screen again. I'll bring up our entire transfer market. So obviously not as many players as Deportivo, although Palermo did do that. When we got promoted back to Serie B in 2022, we did sign about 20 players. So we've done it before, but this time it wasn't as many. Antonio Palumbo, who's a player that I will talk a bit about in the stream because I want to see him start more games. Attacking midfielder, it says central midfielder, but more of a number 10. You got Mattia Bani from Genoa, a Serie A experienced centre back. Agello from Cagliari. We needed a left wing back. Jolonen, who we talked about last week. He's a goalkeeper. We brought in 2 goalkeepers. Francesco Bardi, who unfortunately got injured since the last video. So Jolonen had to make his debut against Frosinone in that game. But 2 goalkeepers coming in. I would have loved Klinsmann from Cesena, of course, the son of Jurgen Klinsmann. Unfortunately, that one didn't get done. Giovanni, like I mentioned, and Emmanuel Giassi, another Serie A experienced player joining from Empoli on loan with an obligation. So overall, in terms of our incomings, I'm pretty happy. I think that the types of players we've gone for, kind of Serie A experienced, is exactly what we need to go for. I would have liked maybe like I said, Klinsmann. I would have really liked in goal. I would have maybe liked maybe another striker potentially, or we did lose. We'll talk about outgoings in a minute, but we did lose a couple of wingers, so we don't really have an option to kind of go to a formation with wingers if we decide to change it. So I guess that's sort of not great, but overall, I am pretty. When I look at who we've brought in, that we filled the majority of positions, or pretty much all of the positions that I would say we needed to fill. So overall, it's a good window. I think we've had a window that, on top of the squad, because the thing with Palermo is that, and again, I don't mean to sound sort of arrogant, but with our team being as strong as it is already, out of the teams in Serie B, we didn't need to kind of go crazy in the transfer market. We didn't need to kind of sign 20 players like we did when we came up. So overall, the players we brought in filled the gaps. I think we had problems like at wing back. I thought that was a serious issue last season. So overall, I think we've plugged the gaps, which is the most important thing. And a couple of young players on loan, so we'll see how they do. But overall, a lot of experienced players, Serie A. Palermo, in his case, being one of the better players in the league, Serie B. So overall, I'm pretty happy. I am pretty happy with this window. Out of 10, I'd probably give it a 9, to be honest. I think that, again, it's a transfer window is all about plugging the gaps that you need to plug. And I think we've plugged most of them. In terms of outgoings, this is where it does get quite interesting. Look, we did let go of a lot of players. I briefly talked about a few last week, but I just want to start things off by talking about Magnani, the centre-back here, who's joined Reggiana on loan. This was a real shame because he was one of our better centre-backs last season. But unfortunately, he moved because he was having some family issues. There were some problems going on in his family. So he's had to move back up north to Reggiana. And it was a shame because he wasn't involved in pre-season really. There was a lot of sort of personal stuff going on. So he's moved on loan to Reggiana. It's a shame that we won't have him because, like I said, he was definitely one of our last season, I would say, our best centre backs. But on the flip side, at least we have sort of replaced quite well with Bani and Verodi, both replacing Magnani and Nicoalu, the Greek centre-back who I talked about last week, who I'm not a fan of personally. Desplanches, young goalkeeper with a lot of potential, joined Pescara on loan. Christopher Lund went out. Insigne. See, this is what I mean. Insigne, Di Mariano. Who else? Di Francesco. All wingers. So we don't really have any wingers in the squad. I know we don't play with wingers, but I'm thinking that if we want to maybe change it to a formation that does have wingers, it's there's not as many options now. Daric left at last. Butaro, who's been here for a while, left on loan to Foggia. A couple of younger goalkeepers, Di Bartolo and Cotrona. Sirigu, of course, who we brought back last summer, he came to the end of his contract. So overall, quite a few players leaving. Graves, who, he was not good for us. Insigne as well, joined Avellino. Aurelio, who was already going to leave anyway, he was on loan at Spezia last season, and they made the signing permanent. So, in terms of our window, overall, I think we've done quite well. So, let's see if we can make it count going forward. So there you go, Deportivo and Palermo wrapping up the transfer market, and let me know what you guys have to say about everything we spoke about there. But I guess next up, there's only one thing to talk about. That is the weekend games. Both of us, Deportivo with their third league game of the season, Palermo with their second league game. Let's start with Deportivo. Both of us drawing over the weekend, but Deportivo's game was definitely more eventful than Palermo's. Finished 2-2 away at Leganés. Of course, Leganés, one of the favourites to get promoted back to La Liga. Deportivo were 2-0 down. And I have to say, that comeback was a really good comeback because it was in the last 20 minutes. Two late goals to get a 2-2 draw, which we discussed on the last show, that if Deportivo can at least draw that game, it wouldn't be a terrible. And that's what they did, and they did it from 2-0 down. So 10. Obviously, I did watch the highlights. I have to say, you guys probably should have got a goal before you went 2-0 down with some of the chances. Yeah. But for the goal that got you back into the game, that defending was horrific from them. They completely messed that up. But obviously, you got the penalty to equalise, and on the balance of play, you probably did deserve a draw. But I don't understand how that was a penalty. Like, obviously, you can tell me, but I didn't see the specific incident of it. But what was your thoughts on Deportivo's draw away?
We already conceded the fastest goal of the season, 11 seconds.
Yeah, in the first
11 seconds, it was 1-0 Leganés. The first Deportivo, in terms of possession, didn't even have possession when Leganés scored in 11 seconds. So
And
that wasn't a good
yeah.
start, obviously. So it really put Deportivo on the back foot. First 10 minutes or whatever, Deportivo were terrible against Leganés. Didn't help that it was 1-0 after 11 seconds. But, a few opportunities afterwards for us. Obviously, we could have scored. Yeremai got a really good ball into the middle. Share screen as well. Yeah, so Yeremai had a chance in the game, but a good save by the goalkeeper. I forgot who. I believe it was. I have to check who was the one.
Soriano.
Oh yeah, Soriano,
was
the
the
other
keeper.
chance that was saved by the foot of the Leganés goalkeeper. But then, obviously, Leganés had a corner. Didn't really deal with it, and then Duke for Leganés scored for them. So it made it 2-0 after a little over half an hour. So yeah, the first half, you can say Leganés were probably the better team in terms of the first half, obviously. But then second half, I would say Deportivo were a lot better than Leganés. Obviously, it didn't take until like near the last 20 minutes.
Last 20 minutes.
Yeah. Obviously, we got the ball down the wing and all that. It was whipped in, and new signing Multieri from Sassuolo. First game, he came on at halftime, and he scored a header down to the ground and above the goalkeeper and all that sort of goal to make it 2-1. So that was kind of this, obviously the start of the comeback. And then a few minutes later, about 10 minutes later, we got given a penalty. I believe the Leganés player probably held a little bit of, I believe it was Mulatieri in the box, and hugging and then falling down into the penalty box or whatever.
Yeah, Mulatieri, man of the match for this game, is from SofaScore.
I mean, he did really well. And the referee called it a penalty and all that. And eventually, Yeremai stepped up and scored a very easy penalty, obviously. The goalkeeper was not going to save it. And overall.
But how? I watched it back and I couldn't tell how that was given the hand. Or I mean, what did you think? Because I just couldn't see what made them give a penalty.
I mean, I would assume it was a foul in the box from the cross that was whipped in, and then that's how the referee called for the penalty. So that would be my assumption. Whether it's because you usually see those sort of challenges whereby a defender would like wrap their arms or whatever, and then both players fall down. So I think you can see both arguments as one being a penalty, one being not. But I probably would say, I mean, with bias, yes, it is a penalty. But I think overall, from the game itself at the end, I would say Deportivo probably got the result, but this sort of game was like what would be like of last season in terms of like we are good enough to win this game, but we end up drawing the game 2-2 instead of winning it. We put ourselves in a terrible spot in that first half.
Yeah, the start you had
11
was horrendous. I mean, 11 seconds.
The fastest goal this season, and I don't know if Palermo are going to. I would love to see Palermo break that record of conceding. I would love it to be against. I don't know if you get like. I don't know against Südtirol in 2 weeks or whatever, but I think overall this game. I said last week because we play Leganés, which we already did, and we play Sporting Gijón this coming Saturday. I did say I would take 4 points, so this is 1 point of 4. So you kind of know what I will be previewing for Sporting Gijón for this weekend. But yeah, I think overall, first half bad performance, apart from 2 chances that we could have scored, but first half not great. Second half a lot better.
It sounds like it was a game
Yeah.
of 2 halves, really, and that's kind of what I got. But then, like I said, you guys had, when they were one, that obviously they scored in 11 seconds. But I thought after that, you guys had chances to equalise. And if I think if you had got an equaliser in the first half, it probably would have been a different game in that sense, because you would have got back into the game. And I think that obviously momentum can take you forward. But then obviously they upped the game. They got the second goal, which obviously made it harder. But then in the end, you were able to salvage something from it. But just looking at the table, obviously, look, it's 3 games. So at this stage, it's hard to read too much into it. But Deportivo in 8th, they are on 5 points, a win and 2 draws. They're 4 points behind first place, 4 points behind the automatic spots. And you said that you reckon in the next few games, you guys have some winnable games. So I think that right now, obviously 8th isn't where you want to be, but it is only 3 games. But I reckon that, I mean, with your fixtures coming up, like you mentioned, I think that you can hopefully climb the table. But yeah, what's your thoughts on sort of the league table, the La Liga 2, after 3 games and Deportivo being
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you at the start of the season, 5 points in the first 3 games, and the position.
Would you have taken?
I mean, last season we started worse. I think we only had 3 points out of 9 at the start of last season. This time we have 5, so a little bit of an improvement. But 8th at this stage, I mean, obviously we're not as bad as like Granada or right now, who are like one of the only 3 teams without a win or without a point as well. So I would probably say like 5 points. It's not bad. It's not bad. And we did play Granada and Leganés away, who you would think are really good teams at their ground, but we got 4 points out of 6. The only game that was maybe a bit of a disappointment was the one last week against Burgos, which was at home, but hopefully this coming weekend we can kind of salvage that.
Only a they've had not kind of similar start.
I mean,
but then let's look at them. They were one of the favourites to go up, but they've drawn.
Yeah,
they've drawn all 3 games.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is still very early, but I do think there is going to be some separation of teams already. I mean, if you look at the bottom of the table, I think the bottom 3 will be a sort of. Actually, no, I'd say those bottom 4 right now. I wouldn't say all 4 will go down, but you expect at least, I'd say 2 of them. Because I think Granada, like the ownership and those sort of things, it's been terrible. Obviously, we know about Real Zaragoza, just another big team like Granada that the ownership and just not really good vibes with them. Whereas Leonessa and Greta, who are actually in the bottom 2, they've just been promoted. And you kind of expect them to be in that relegation battle. Obviously, you can see like Cordoba, Castellón, Albacete, Mirandes, and all that. I'd probably say eventually they'll probably, maybe pick up the pace, or maybe one of them might continue to struggle. Whereas like if you see like probably around, let's say the top 12, I'd say, after Leganés and Sociedad B team, I'd say, more or less you could see those sort of teams be like contending with it. Obviously, you'll only have 2 teams with 100% record. Racing Club Santander, which you have been to Santander, and Sporting Gijón, who we play this Saturday, which is a derby. And the tickets are not.
I know they've started well, but because it's a derby, that's where you really want to get 3 points. And But if you can win that game, I mean, you've got a point behind them, so it kind of makes up the gap. But if you lose it, obviously the gap starts to expand a little bit. So early on, it's probably quite a big game.
I'd probably say, like, let's say if it would be easy to say, oh, we'll draw the game 3 draws in a row, but if we win, that'll be good. I don't remember what we did against them last season. I think we draw both games last season, if I remember, against them. But yeah, obviously, the ticket sales for general members is on Thursday, and the game's on Saturday. But I think obviously Sporting Gijón, we might as well preview the game now, because actually Deportivo are playing this weekend and not Palermo.
Yeah, for those that don't know, so Serie B isn't during international breaks, but La Liga 2, the Segunda, is during international break. So probably because, I mean, Serie B has 20 teams. They cut the league from 22 a few years ago. So we're the same as Serie A, basically 20 teams. But La Liga 2 is 24 teams. So it's basically it's 22, sorry. So it's basically, it's more games. So, I mean, they have to fit them in. And I mean, if there is any internationals, I guess that they'll have to, they won't be available for. Yeah, so it's not great in that sense, but obviously, Palermo won't play next week. Deportivo will during the international break. So, what's your thoughts on your derby against Gijón coming up? Do you think they've had a good start? They've won 3 out of 3. Do you think you can end? Do you think you can end their run?
To be honest, right, when you look at Sporting Gijón's teams that they beat, like, they only won by 1 goal. They beat Cordoba, Guetta, and Leonessa, all by a single goal margin, 2-1, 1-0, 1-0. And coincidentally, all of those teams are in the bottom 5 at the moment in the league. So they had a very favorable start. And if you look at last season, they weren't great, really. Gijón, I think they finished above us, but they weren't great overall. Throughout the season, they just picked up at the right time. But I think in that game against Gijón, it's going to be tough. Obviously, it's like a derby and all that. I mean, I'm not sure if we're the closest team to them in terms of like teams in the second tier. It's either us or Santander who are the closest to them geographic-wise. But in terms of the table, they are close to Santander because Santander are at the top and all that. But I do think that Gijón, they only scored 4 goals but they have only conceded 1 goal, which was only on the first game of the season for them. Whereas Deportivo, we have played, as I said, I think difficult-ish teams like Granada. Burgos were okay last season, not amazing, but okay. And we were away at Granada and Leganés, so we already played a team that got relegated. We played a team that got relegated from La Liga 2 seasons ago. And Burgos weren't that bad overall last season, a bit okay. So we started the season unbeaten, which is all right. So hopefully can get the home win this time. I think this is probably the game that can kind of kickstart our season, because I think our toughest game.
Winning derby's always great. Like if you can win a derby, that if that's the thing. If you guys can win that, it will be 2 wins and 2 draws with some hardish games, you could say, in there. So if you can win that, I think it's fair to say that you have had a pretty good start to the season.
Let's say after the Gijón game, I'd say we basically have some favorable 3 fixtures coming up. Not like super easy like Guetta and Leonessa, but like Mirandes, Huesca, Eibar. They're not bad, but not like the teams you would expect to be in the top 6 by the end of the season, and then eventually it'll become a lot more difficult. But if we can beat Gijón, that would be really good. Obviously, it's a derby mainly because it's, well, 1, geographical, and 2, a little bit of the political derby. One city being I don't really want to get into it, but yeah.
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 Yeah, we'd have to
So
go
you know,
there.
there's that sort of thing with that derby and all that. Obviously, we're not the, you know, Deportivo and Gijón aren't the main rivals of each other. I mean, obviously, Gijón's main rival, well, actually, both of our main rivals are in La Liga at the moment. Oviedo for them and
Yep.
Celta Vigo for us, and all that. Who actually, you know, their rivals, Oviedo, have at least won a game in La Liga. You know,
Yeah.
whereas Celta after 4 games still haven't won. But yeah, overall, how do I think this game will go against Sporting Gijón? I do think that should we start Mullatieri because he came on at halftime against Leganés on his debut, scored the goal that led to us getting the game at 2-2 eventually. I'd probably say yeah. You might as well try and start him over Zakaria potentially, because if you remember against Burgos on our opening home game, you know, we could have scored in the first like 3 minutes of that game that hit the crossbar and all. So we'll see how it will go against Sporting Gijón. I do think that overall, I do think we'll be good enough to beat them. As I said, you know, Gijón, they started the season with very, very favorable fixtures to start the season. When you look at the teams that they played against and where those opponents are in the league table, you know, Deportivo don't really have that fortune until like we play Zaragoza in November. Like our November fixtures are perfect, but that's November.
That's
you
where
know,
you
we
wanna
play
come.
Zaragoza, Leganés, Cordoba.
I mean, from what I have seen of Deportivo, I have to say, I know you've made a lot of signings and stuff, but I do like the football that you guys play. Like you actually play. Obviously, I know it's Spain, so all the teams play like tiki taka and stuff. But you guys, I think. I mean, except Getafe, yeah. But I think you guys have a good foundation because you've kept your best players like
you know could have went to Sporting in Portugal.
Yeah. So exactly. So you've kept your best players, and I think that from what I have seen, you're a very good team. I think
adventurous. I would say.
Yeah, you're expansive. That's kind of you've read my mind basically. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
I mean, my prediction for the game against Gijón. I mean, if we can click in terms of goal scoring, then yeah, I'd say we are a very good team. But of course, the main worry is just don't concede in 11 seconds at least. I don't think that will happen again. I think we'll be like, okay, let's not concede in the first 11 seconds. But I'd probably say it'll be a tight affair against Sporting Gijón. I would love to see a big win and all that. I'm not sure if I'll go to the game. Not sure, but I would love to, obviously. I'll see what the ticket availability will be like when it opens for the general public. And I'll see if I really want to go on Saturday. But my prediction, I did say 4 points in the Leganés Gijón game. We got 1 against Leganés. I probably would say, I would love to say, why not? You know what? Maybe have some confidence. I'd say 3-0 Deportivo. Because I do think Sporting Gijón, as I said, play very easy opponents. Yeah, I mean they're gonna get humbled. If you want to look at the top 2 teams, with the only teams with 100%.
They've scored 14 goals, or like, is it?
Yeah,
they've scored a lot of goals.
Santander, who are at the top of the table by goal difference. I mean, yeah, they've played sort of easier-ish teams, but they at least score goals and all that, and have been, you know, over the past couple of seasons, been a team that's either pushing playoffs or, were in the playoffs last season. Whereas
basically 10 goals, not 14.
I mean, they'll probably get 14 against Almeria, considering how bad Almeria are defensively. You know, the 4-4, 2-2, and all that.
But they let in 6 goals
Yeah.
in 3 games.
So we are not good defensively. So I'd probably say, look, I do think if I have to say between the top 2 who do have the 9 out of 9 points, I'd say Racing Santander have a much better chance of securing top 2. But they're usually known for bottling things, like really bottle it. They bottled last season. They started the season so well. Santander, like should have been top 2, but results eventually.
Hopefully, Deportivo. Hopefully, because we haven't really seen them in that position for a while. But hopefully, season, if you're in that position, hopefully you guys don't bottle it. Hopefully
so that's why I hope. That's why I do think if Santander, for their sake, I do think I think I predicted them to get automatic promotion, and I do think they will. I think they learned from their past couple of seasons of.
When are you guys playing Santander?
October 19th or around that weekend. Yeah,
that'll be a good show after that.
Where is it? Oh, it's at their ground, which is really tough. And we play the home game in January, around actually in between our Champions League games, that January time, that weekend. But yeah, I do think Santander should get promoted automatically if they don't bottle it. Whereas with Sporting Gijón, I do think false start, I'm saying 3-0 Deportivo. I will say Mullatieri scores another goal, so that's 2 goals and 2. I'll say Jeremiah as well, and let me see, who do I think might score? Maybe Zakaria off the bench or as a starting 11 player. So both strikers, I would say, starting the game. But I mean, we'll see. That'll be my prediction.
Well, your formation is interesting because the game, the 0-0 last week against Burgos, you went with a 3 at the back. This game, you went with like a 4-1-4-1. So a very different formation.
And I do think the manager here, Galdo, is still trying to figure out his best team. Obviously, I'd say of the 3 games, the Granada game obviously was the best performance because one, it was away and we beat Granada obviously. But I would say, I'd say we'll see what formation we'll go with. I mean, I do expect Gijón to be good, maybe in the midfield, but I just the attack of Sporting Gijón, I think Deportivo will be able to manage it. So I'd probably say 4 at the back instead of 2. So I'd probably say maybe a 4-1-4-1 again, but just don't concede in the first 11 seconds. So
just if you guys do that, you'll be in a position. But I do want to move on to Palermo. Of course, look, Deportivo, a decent result away at Leganés, who seem to be Draw FC right now. So there's that. But let's go to Palermo. Let's move on to Palermo. Look, first of all, I have to say it, Frosinone, I hate these bastards. Frosinone, honestly, get stuffed. Like, I said the story in the last stream about how they cheated their way through the playoffs against us in 2018 in the playoff final. And obviously, look, since then, there's been, hatred from the people of Palermo towards Frosinone, and rightly so. But coming into this game, look, it was obviously, it's always heated with Frosinone, but this was really frustrating. Obviously, Palermo 0, Frosinone 0. A game of 2 halves, really, because I thought, I'll share the screen just to start with our starting lineup, which I think kind of what I spoke about in the last show about how kind of a bit unbalanced the forward line was. I think that sort of maybe cost us a little bit. I mean, you see here, Jorolenen in goal because unfortunately Bardi got injured. So I don't know what it is. Our goalkeepers seem to just always get injured. First Gomez, now Bardi. So Jorolenen for his debut comes in goal. Still with the 3-4-3, Cetoloni, Bani, and Diakite, Agello, Segre, Ranocchia, and Pirozzi. And then this front 3, Giassi, Poyampalo, and Brunori. Now, the thing with this front 3, I mentioned it last week. Giassi's our right wing back. Brunori is a striker. This game, said to me that we have to change it. Because last game against Reggiana, we had loads of shots, we had loads of chances. So I thought, look, if we can maybe put a few more away, we'll be okay with it, even if we do play that front three. But I look at it now and I'm like, we need to change it. Put Brunori up front alongside Poyampalo. Put Palumbo in the number 10. Palumbo was on the bench again in this game. I want to see Palumbo start. And then, Giassi can either go at right wing back or, have him off the bench. Either one of those two options. So that's the way I look at our team. Obviously, look, we have good players. We have players in the league that I think can do well, can cause damage. But I'm looking at my main concern is the balance of the front three. And I think that this game, obviously it finishing 0-0, it cost us in a way, obviously, because we didn't score. And I felt that it was an issue during the game. I also want to see maybe Gomez start in midfield. He was obviously on the bench. I'd maybe like to see him start ahead of Ranocchia. Ranocchia, I didn't think had the best game, and I think that Gomez overall is a better player. I think he was our best midfielder last season. But in terms of the game, look, 0-0, obviously a frustrating result at home. We are still unbeaten, 4 points from 2 games, so it's not the worst start in the world. We played really well against Reggiana, but this game, it was one of those where it was a game of two halves. I thought in the first half we weren't very good. If I'm being honest, we didn't look like we were playing. To be honest, in the first half, Frosinone, I thought probably had the better of it in the first half. They could have maybe scored. Jolonen one of his saves was a top save. Like, he had a really good debut. Obviously, he got a clean sheet, but also in that first half when he was called into action, he did really well. He pulled off some good saves. And look, at half time, I was really frustrated because I felt, and look, to be fair, the momentum kind of tells a bit of the story because we just didn't get going. And this was sort of what I spoke about in the Reggiana game, that more so in this game, but against Reggiana, sort of the first 10 minutes or so, we didn't really get going. And then eventually we did. We clicked into gear and we obviously won that game. But, it was a little bit of a rusty start, which I spoke about. And in this game, it obviously went on for the majority of the first half. We just didn't really get going. But it was a game of two halves, because in the second half, I thought we were excellent. I thought that we were so unlucky not to score, to be honest. Poyampalo hit the post. To be honest, he should score that chance. Pirozzi, it was a great cross. Poyampalo hits the outside of the post, and then he had a header that was tipped. Yeah, so we had other chances as well. Led the run when he came off the bench, had a good chance, but it was straight at the keeper. Like, we just didn't, a lot of our shots, we got into some really good shooting positions, but we just, we weren't ruthless enough. We weren't powerful enough with our shots in the second half. And I think that overall, in the second half, we were the much better team, and we should have scored. And ultimately, that's the frustration. We weren't able to score. And look, Frosinone, I don't get what they did. Look, first half, they caused us problems, but in the second half, they were pretty much non-existent. And I have to mention it. Look, I don't like blaming refs, but this referee...
the VAR check.
Like,
It's kind of lucky.
Obviously, well, there was a VAR check for a Frosinone penalty, but it was clearly offside, and I don't think it was a penalty. I mean, he's players made the most of it from Frosinone, but yeah, 0-0, a frustrating draw in the sense that, look, like I said, we should have won it in the second half, but we weren't clinical enough in front of goal, and that was the thing against Reggiana. We created a lot, but I said we should have won it by more than one goal, obviously 2-1. In this game, we should have scored, and I'm hoping that we can fix this issue. And the way I'd fix it is, like I said, this front three for me. Look, Brunori's a striker. He's not a winger. Giassi, look, he is a winger, but he's more of a wing back now, right wing back. Put Palumbo in from the start. I love Inzaghi. I'm so happy he's our manager, but I think he needs to change the front three. I would, like I said, a 3-4-1-2, Palumbo in the number 10, Brunori, Poyampalo up front. And I think that hopefully can help things. But yeah, that's kind of my takeaway from the game. Front three lacks a bit of balance, and I think we just need to be a bit more clinical. But overall, we didn't play badly. Like I said, I thought we were really good in the second half, in fact. But we just we just didn't get the goal, basically. And that was the frustrating thing. So overall, sort of performance-wise, I'm happy. My worry is the first half. We seem to be starting games really slowly at the moment. I'm not sure why that is, to be honest. I mean, look with Inzaghi, he's going to need time to kind of get this team really going. He's just come in. He's obviously our new manager and everything. So, I trust Inzaghi. I trust him, of course, to figure it out in terms of solving some of the issues that we have at the moment. But overall, I think that on another day we win that game. It's just frustrating that we didn't get the goal, and it's Frosinone. These bastards think that they think they're the shit, Frosinone. So not happy that we didn't beat them, but ultimately, Frosinone. Look, I hate to say it, but they are looking better this season than they did last season. Last season they were horrific. They beat Avellino in their first game, but this game, look, they like I said, they played well in the first half, and they ultimately stunk it out in the second half and were able to get a draw out of us. So, 4 points from 2 games in terms of the table. We were lucky because no team won their first 2 games in Serie B. You look at it, no, not a single team has won their first 2 games. So nobody right now has gained any ground on us. Empoli losing was a big. Yeah, exactly, Reggiana. So I was glad to see Empoli drop points because, like I said, Empoli is the team that I'm looking at, are sort of rivals probably for this season. But obviously, look, it's hard to say. It's 2 games in. We don't know. And only 3 teams won this weekend. Not Venezia, Reggiana, Mantova, and Südtirol, who's our next game. Funnily enough, so
travel
overall. Look, that's for those that don't know. Our next game against Südtirol. That is the longest away day in Italy, basically. Südtirol is near the border with Austria. Palermo is obviously in Sicily, so it's right at the south. That is a long away trip. Yeah. I can tell you that. But overall, with the table, look, it's 2 games in. Like, you can't read anything into it too much. But basically, we're level 4 points with, all of the other teams here. So. Including Frosinone, yes, including Frosinone. So there you go. But yeah, 10. Any thoughts on the game or of the highlights you saw and the obviously the table as well? What's your sort of thoughts on?
Yeah, it seemed like it was a game of 2 halves. I do think Frosinone, I think I'd say did their best to kind of silence the Palermo crowd in that first half.
Oh, another fantastic atmosphere, that's for sure.
But Frosinone did really well in that first half. I'd say perhaps a bit unlucky not to score. But then, second half, all Palermo. Maybe, obviously if it wasn't offside, you never know if that would be a penalty. But you never know with referees, But yeah, I think it was overall, I'd say Palermo were probably the better team, and big up to FC25 as well, and also to you as well. But yeah, I think overall, I'd say a good performance, and I'll be honest, probably both teams good performance.
I think that when you look at it like that, in terms of the game at 2 halves, you could argue a draw was a fair result in that sense. I just thought that we had the better chances in the second half. Thank you. Big up. This is from the season when we were in Europe.
And this is 2010. Shirt.
So nice. Why not? It's the colours, so it is what it is.
But yeah, that's why I mostly think of the game, and in terms of the league table. I mean, it's kind of expected of a fair amount of teams. You could say Venezia, Palermo, Monza. To be honest, I think if there's going to be a surprise team in Serie B, I probably would say it might be Südtirol. They seem like an interesting story, obviously from.
Who my surprise? I don't think I mentioned it on one of the first episodes we did, but my surprise team is Cesena this season. That's my Cesena. I know they're top now, but Cesena, they surprised a lot of people last season when they were a newly promoted team. They just about missed out on the playoffs. I think Cesena with Klinsmann, they've got some other players there that are pretty good. I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to get promoted or anything, but I think they're a team to keep an eye on.
And obviously, I guess the big disappointment is Sampdoria, probably.
Well, they obviously were saved by Brescia kind of getting liquidated last season. Otherwise, they would have been relegated. But yeah, so what's your So any other thoughts on the game? Like you said, game of two halves. And I mean, what do you think of the front three? Would you say that I think we need to change it?
Yeah, I'd probably say you should probably play Palumbo at least as one of the two players in behind Paulo and Paulo. And let's just hope that maybe your goalkeeper doesn't get injured.
Oh my God, that we have to talk about that. I mean, Jolonen, I thought he had a good debut, but we can't. I don't know why this keeps happening. Like
he supports Arsenal and Catania.
Get out! Get out! Same look. I can't control the stream, so I can't kick you. But yeah.
What, no. Really?
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. He's done it.
Yeah. Now it's just me. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. But look, jokes aside, look, FC25. Look, I support both clubs. It's as simple as that. Both of my clubs. But yeah, I agree. I think that. What was I saying? I agree with you about the front. Goalkeepers. Look, I don't know what it is. Our luck with goalkeepers is just so. I don't know what it is. First Goalless against Man City in pre-season, and then Bardi got injured now as well. So we've had to sign another keeper, like Jolonen, on top of that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure when Bardi's going to be back. Goalless, I think, is quite a serious injury, unfortunately. But it's the story of Palermo the last couple of years. We're constantly changing goalkeepers. We've never had a settled number one. Last year, obviously, Goalless got injured at the start of the season, missed the whole season. And then we had, it felt like, obviously, I'm not going to talk too much about the previous manager, but whenever a goalkeeper made a mistake, they'd get dropped, basically. So that was the story of last season. But, our two new goalkeepers have looked good so far. They haven't put a foot wrong. And hopefully, Jolonen, we're going to have to rely on him for now. And look, if he plays like he did on his debut, I think we'll be okay. But it's just frustrating that we just keep getting injuries in goalkeeping positions, and it's weird because goalkeepers, that's the last player you'd expect to get injured, but yet we always have injury problems in the goalkeeping department. So, and 100% FC25, which we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that on Thursday in the Year of the Bird show. But yeah, hopefully our goalkeeper can stay fit, and we'll see. Our next game, I guess we'll talk about that. Südtirol, a team that I think, like you said, could be another surprise package. They are never an easy team to play against. In Serie B, they're one of these teams. Yes, it's away as well. They're one of these teams where they can take points off anyone. They're kind of like for those, obviously, for the English fans watching, they're kind of the equivalent of maybe like a Brighton or like a Brentford. Just these teams that can sort of just take points and frustrate anyone in the league. And that's the way I see Südtirol. And I think it's going to be a tough game. But like I say, like I've been saying with Palermo this season, I'm expecting, wins. I'm expecting consistency this season. And yes, Daniel Levy to Bahamas. Here we go. I'm expecting consistency, and I think that this is all of a sudden turned into a very important. Well, it was already an important game, but this is even more important considering we dropped points against Frosinone. We need to get back to winning ways. It's as simple as that. Of course, it's our first away game of the season, the longest away trip we're going to do from Sicily, but it will be hard. It will be hard, but we have to win. We have to make it 7 points from 9. If we don't win, it's sort of becoming like, we might start to lose ground. That's the thing. I want consistency because Serie B is such a hard league to get out of. And if we're going to get promoted, we have to be consistent. And I'm hoping that if we play like we did against Reggiana, we play like we did in the second half against Frosinone, I think we'll be all right. this season. We will win a lot of games this season. But we have to get these starts right. We have to get these first sort of 10 minutes, first half of games right. We have to put that right. So let's see what happens. Like I said, I want to see Palumbo get in this team. I want to see him start. I'd even start Gomez over Ranocchia as well in midfield alongside Segre. So that's the changes I'd want to see. Two changes I'd want to see for the next game. But I trust Inzaghi. I of course trust Pipo to do the business for us. So let's see. That's just what I would do personally for the next game. In terms of prediction, like I said, we have the quality to win the game. It's going to be tough. Defensively, we've looked good so far this season. I haven't complained. We look way better defensively this season than we did last season. Obviously, with Bani coming into the team, I think has helped a lot. Defensively, we're looking good. We're not, conceding all these late goals like we did last season, which, I've probably jinxed it now. But anyway, I'm going to go for 1-0. 1-0 Palermo. I think we'll get it done in the end. I think it'll be another strong defensive performance. Still not. We're not 100% clicking in attack, although we are creating a lot of chances. But I think we'll have enough. I think we'll get a goal. I'm trusting somebody like Poyampalo, Brunori to pop up with a goal in this game. And I think I'll go for 1-0 Palermo in this game. I'm hoping for a win. We need a win in this game. We need to get back to winning ways and continue the title charge, hopefully. So there you go. That's my thoughts. So frustrating against Frosinone, but if we keep playing the way we are in the majority of both of these games, we'll be all right. But I'm going for a win. So hopefully we can get it done.
I'll predict a 1-1. Why not?
1-1. Trying to dampen it for me. But any final thoughts on the Palermo game?
Obviously.
Game against Südtirol.
I know it's in 2 weeks, so still lots of time to kind of improve, and maybe you might get your goalkeeper back, but probably unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, Bardi, I don't think we'll be back for that game.
So, look, we'll see how things go in a couple of weeks with Palermo and Südtirol, because I do think it's a long away trip, and they'll probably make it tough for a lot of teams, I'd say.
Yeah, they're not an easy. I'm telling you, these guys aren't easy. They're a difficult team. These guys.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure if there's anything else other than that in terms of to talk about.
I think that's all. I think that's all for today. So I guess that does wrap up another episode of La PIÑA Rosa. Of course, both our teams drawing over the weekend, so hopefully both can get back to winning ways in our next games. Of course, Deportivo playing next week, but no Palermo. And Palermo will be back after the international break. So, another episode done as well. Once again, I do apologize for my having to be on my phone because my microphone decided to play up before we were about to go live. So I had to very quickly switch to my phone at the last minute. So apologies if the quality, picture, sound isn't as good. But hopefully by the next show, by Thursday for Year of the Bird, everything will be back to normal. So stay tuned for that, guys. If you're watching on Ten's channel, my channel, being streamed on both channels, please do subscribe to both if you haven't already. Please like both streams as well and comment all your thoughts in the comment section down below if you're watching on playback as well. So we will both be back on Thursday for Year of the Bird, the Spurs Newcastle show, where there will be a lot to talk about, that's for sure.
A lot.
Everything that's happened in the past few days. So stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss that show.
And our games. Not the preview, but review of it.
Yes, our games, of course. Not the greatest, but a lot happening there. So stay tuned for that on Thursday, 5 p.m. UK time. On both channels, it will be streamed on, just like this show. So, Ten, big up for coming on once again. Any final words you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I'm not really, I guess I'm looking forward to the international break somewhat, because I do think that the club season, I think, has started really well. Obviously, we also found out about when we play certain teams in our Champions League campaign. So I'm definitely looking forward to our first one. But yeah, I believe this the La Piña Rosa show will be back on the usual Monday because well, Palermo's not playing and Deportivo play on Saturday, so should be fine for Monday. Um, so should be back on Mondays at the usual time and all that. And yeah, looking forward, I guess, to some international games. Some teams could qualify for the World Cup and all that. We'll find out how good Italy will be against Estonia. You know, that'll be tough.
Oh man, don't, bro. Honestly, so I'm still so mad about the whole Gattuso thing. Don't even get, bro. I'm not even holding my breath about us qualifying. Genuinely, I'm so with the Azzurri, the national team. I'm just fed up. I really am. So the less said about that, the better.
I mean, yeah, I do think in terms of Spain, obviously Spain play not Georgia, Bulgaria away on Thursday, should be a win. The big one is obviously on Sunday evening, which is against Turkey away. So that'll be really tough. I'd probably say the toughest game for Spain, Turkey away on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, like I said, guys, subscribe to both channels if you haven't already. Stay tuned for the show. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this show. And we will be back live on Thursday for Year of the Bird. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, without further ado, big up everyone for watching. As always.